to those people, because like you say, there's more out there than you realize, and an awful lot of those people are very good owners, but they're scared.
Well, I think first of all, I would say that we, since the 5th of September, when the effective date of this bill, we have done everything we can to reach out to those owners and encourage them to register. The law is very clear. If you do not register by November the 5th, you will no longer be able to keep your animal after January 1st, 2014. It is in every owner's interest to see to it that they've got a completed registration form in here on time. The bill doesn't allows no exemption for me to permit, which gives the director permitting authority. It leaves me no leeway to permit any animal that is not registered by the 5th of November this year.
So does that mean that you will confiscate their animals if they have not registered?
It means that they will be in compliance with the law. And I, at that point, Mike, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the folks that haven't registered their dangerous wild animals after the deadline will have broken the law, because there's a legal duty and a requirement to register animals. So that's the first thing that they'll run afoul of. And then the real danger for those folks is if they do intend to keep the animals after the January 1st, 2014 deadline, as the director correctly pointed out, we have no discretion to issue a permit to them because one of the requirements of the permit is that they have to register.
Right.
So essentially they'll be in a situation where they'll have till January 1st to try to dispose of the animal and try to send it out of state. And if they can't do that, when January 1st rolls around, if the department's made aware that someone has an animal illegally in the state, we have a duty to go out, do an investigation, make a determination about whether that complaint was correct. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we can go to a court, and a court may order the department to seize that animal. But again, that wouldn't happen until after the January 1st, 2014 date.
And I think it's fair to say that we have. I think probably our last resort would be that we want to take custody of any animal. I think that in a lot of ways we are going to try to once again identify and work and try to find ways and try to find sanctuaries that have available spots in them throughout the United States. We will work hand in hand with an owner to first of all, we want to make sure that we want to make sure that the public is safe, that these animals are taken care of in a way that is not only safe for them, but also public safety as well. We're going to try to work with those owners that have animals that they would like to get rid of. We're going to work with them and try to help them find that, hopefully, and we will be able to identify rescues as we go along and things of that. But still, the fact still remains that those people that have not registered as of November 5th this year will be non-compliant with the law, and we will have no ability to issue a permit. Craig?
Director, following Ms. White's question, and maybe for Mike, is in this interim period, November, if a person does not register their animal come November 5th, and that interim between November 5th and January 2014, whether they have not registered the animal or whether that once these temporary standards go into effect, what is the jurisdiction of the Department of Agriculture to take some action in that interim period? Can you describe that?
Sure, I can. For the folks who haven't registered their dangerous wild animal, they'll have broken the law, and what the department will do is we'll have an internal protocol for how to handle complaints that we receive about folks who may be in possession of an unregistered dangerous wild animal. And then we'll work to do investigations and to look into those complaints, and then if necessary, we'll refer to the local prosecutor for enforcement of the law. For the folks who have a registered dangerous wild animal that aren't complying with our temporary standards before the January 1st, 2014 date, again, we'll have the same authority to go in, take a look at those facilities, and we'll have a little bit more, actually, jurisdiction in those cases. We can go to the Attorney General for an injunction to try to prevent a bad situation from happening. And again, we've got the authority to go to a county prosecutor and say, here are the violations that are currently occurring, and to seek charges. So You know, it kind of depends on if you're registered or unregistered as to what our jurisdiction might be. But in all cases, the department does have the authority to do something to try to persuade people, you know, to abide by the law and to seek the appropriate action for those who didn't.
Thank you very much.
Sean?
Good question. Since we're just now today going to be adopting the temporary standards, the folks that have the animals that fear standards that they perhaps can't comply with, if they had these standards in layman's terms,
Exactly, layman's terms.
would these standards to those folks look like, oh, I can comply with that, and I will register, or this is just totally impossible, and I can't?
I think some of them, yes, would come around. I really do. I really do. I think that they would.
Director, I don't know what the communication vehicles are to get out via trade associations or groups or the web or whatever, but there's going to be 5 days or so between these existing and the deadline. And again, I don't know how much communication is. I know there's been a lot of communication trying to reach out to those people, but have they seen anything like a draft of this to be able to assess whether they have a shot at complying, or it's too financially onerous?
Well, first of all, and Sean, thanks for the question. And have they seen a copy of these? No, they have not. I mean, this advisory board is the board that needed to have a first opportunity to view these and review them, and we've tried to maintain that. As far as our outreach efforts are concerned, after the 5th of September, when the bill became effective, we started immediately reaching out to those individuals and those groups that we felt we started I guess the best way to put it is a good PR campaign. I was looking at the amount of media attention that this has gotten. I don't think there's been a 4-day period from the passage of the bill that there has not been some media coverage of this at some point. We have reached out to local sheriffs and local law enforcement and asked them, if you know of anybody that has done this or has any of these animals, please let us know. Please help us inform them that they need to. We have worked through the Ohio Veterinary Medical Association and sent out, they have graciously sent out a memo to all the veterinarians in the state, letting them know that if they have clients that have dangerous wild animals, to let them know how to go about registering and how to get that done. We have talked to we have communicated with what I believe are the associations and interest groups that we've been able to identify, not only through our own research, but also through the testimony that occurred in both the House and Senate as this bill's moved forward, and have reached out to them to ask them to provide that kind of information to their membership. Erica, what else are we missing here?
USDA,
I know USDA.
we sent out letters.
USDA has sent out letters.
And Director, just to address Mr. Dunn's point about the timeline and the notice that people have, the purpose of the registration and the reason the legislature included the registration language was to, for the first time, allow someone in the state to have an idea of what was out there. I don't think it was ever intended that people would have an opportunity to review all of the standards beforehand. The registration is just simply a statutory requirement to register so that we know what animals are out there. They don't have to immediately comply with these standards. They don't have to comply with the standards, in fact, until 90 days after they're adopted. So they're starting here in the very near future, when these rules are sent to CSI and from JCAR, there will be public participation and review of those rules. But no one that has a dangerous wild animal right now is going to have to comply with these standards until at least 90 days after whenever they're eventually adopted. So that is some point into the future. And so there will be an opportunity to review those standards to make a decision about whether or not I want to comply with those standards and whether or not I, in fact, can comply with the standards.
And to the point, registration does not require someone to keep that, or registration does not require someone to meet those standards and keep that animal. If they, after they see the standards, if they decide that, hey, I can't meet this, then that's fine. But it's in everybody's interest that thinks that they would like to at least see the standards, look at them, can I comply? It's in everybody's best interest to voluntarily register their animals. Mr. Deitch, you have a
My comment would be